Hi, my name is Natasha Wright, and you are tuned in to Event Gems, where I will discuss all things event related and take a deep dive into creating concepts, marketing, and execution for your next biz event. My goal is to bring you industry experts who can help you properly monetize and effectively strategize so that you can make your business shine.
Again, the show is called Event Gems, and today the topic we're going to be discussing is how to utilize events to cultivate your tribe, right? And so Suzette is a host, a speaker, author, attorney, and event producer. She's also the founder of the Women's Empowerment Conference workshop series and meetup, where her goal is to encourage, support, and improve the lives of women by facilitating forums that provide personal and professional growth strategies. So everyone, please welcome Suzette.
How's everybody doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. It's great to be with you, Natasha. Thank you for having me.
Yes, absolutely. Thanks for being here. I've known Suzette for quite a few years now. She was actually the host of my very first event that I did through the Diamond Butterfly. And I thought she was just so fantastic. And I got great feedback afterwards for her hosting skills. And trust me when I say I did not know what I was getting myself into, because this was the very first time I was doing a women's empowerment event or any inspirational event at all. And so it was so essential to have a great host that, was highly qualified and who could help me navigate that space really, and really just keep the energy going for the women to really be at a high vibe and get some of the nourishment that some of the speakers were given to them via their content. And so that's one of the reasons why I really wanted her to be one of my first guests today, because I know her as a speaker, I know her as a host, but a couple of years ago I noticed that she started doing some networking events and also workshop series, and that culminated into a larger conference, which is the Speaks Women's Empowerment Conference. So talk to us about why you decided to start doing those workshop series and networking events, and did you think about the Speaks conference as being something that you wanted as an end goal for those events, or did it just organically come out of you doing it, and then there was a demand for people saying, hey, like, we would want to have a conference to have more discussions or conversations about this?
Well, I would say there was a combination. So first and foremost, I like getting together with people. You are the diamond butterfly. I am the social butterfly. So I really enjoy
Yes.
getting women together and just chatting. That is something that is naturally like I could do it for free with my eyes open and closed. So I really enjoy
Mm-hmm.
conversations. I'm a conversationalist and I like
Mm-hmm.
discovering things about people. And I'm one of those people that if I see you, I will probably have your life story within the first 10 minutes of meeting you. And that's just that's just my
That's
nature.
awesome.
And it's something that
Yes.
I cherish. I don't take it lightly. So when I started events, I would say I was probably in elementary school. Like I was that woman or that girl at the time who just like getting people together. I always been able to kind of galvanize people, get them interested in something and get them to rally behind it. So to say
Mm-hmm.
that there is a method to my madness, I would just say this is something that is organic to me and comes naturally to me.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't try to do what I'm doing. I think something within me is kind of aligning in a gifting that I have. So that being said, I think other people
Mm-hmm.
can do it, but I will say that most women, probably like myself, I didn't really have much confidence in doing it, especially when it came to trying to do events that were paid. So I was
Right.
having informal, like my birthday parties would be the bomb, and my little gatherings, just because I want people over my house and eating dessert and wine and just chatting, would be well
Right.
attended. And it would be just stuff that, we would end up talking some, deep conversations, and it would be an all night affair. And I loved it. And I thought
Mm-hmm.
a couple of years ago that I wanted to do something more formally, but I was really afraid. I'm not even going to lie. People think of me as a really confident
Mm-hmm.
person, but I was really insecure around whether people would buy a ticket and come to my stuff.
Right.
So I met a
Right.
young
Mm-hmm.
lady as at an event where I was hosting, and it was so funny. And I know I believe in great providence and fate, like orchestrating things beyond what we can imagine.
Right.
But a young lady who told me
Mm-hmm.
like, I've been watching you on Facebook and I really admire you. Let's go have something to eat. And from that conference, just random meeting, we ended up teaming up for a first joint event called a Chat and Chew. We called the series Chat and Chew Brunches. And shout out to
Right.
Jabrina. And she was like, I don't understand why you don't think people gonna come. Like every time I'm in your presence, I always get some nuggets of truth and definitely some
Wow.
wisdom. So let's go for it. And when we did it, I think we had to turn people away. We had seats for like 50, and I kept thinking, no one's gonna buy the ticket, Jabrina. Nobody's gonna buy the ticket. And eventually, we were like, we gotta tell people, no, it was sold out,
Yes.
and it was
Yes,
so.
and for everyone watching, I was also one of those people who waited last minute and then went to go purchase my ticket and realized it was sold
Uh
out. Okay,
oh.
and I'm reaching out like, hey, can I get into the event? So that was fantastic that you had that first event and you sold out 50 seats. That's
Absolutely. And I agree with the
amazing.
comments I see here. Michelle says the ticket sales, will they come for real? And it always,
Mm-hmm.
fear is real
Always works
and it
out.
always works out. It
Mm-hmm.
does. But it's really
Mm-hmm.
nerve-wracking sometimes, especially when you haven't done it before. So that was my first time
Right.
really charging people like $35. And I was like, oh my God, $35, are they gonna pay this? And we ended up being sold out.
Mm-hmm.
So she and I
Wow.
partnered, and I thank her so much because she opened me up to being more confident in my events. Yes, I knew I had some
Right.
there, but she was like, "There's quality
Mm-hmm.
here. There's value here. It's okay to charge people for this, and you shouldn't feel bad
Mm-hmm.
about it." So we did a combo, maybe three different events together. Two were
Right.
very successful. One we picked a weekend where it was literally, I don't know if it was the AKA reunion in Atlanta, some kind of jazz fest in Orlando, some kind of whatever. And that's the
Mm-hmm.
only one that didn't go off without a hitch because we ended up postponing it. When we realized like
Oh,
nobody's buying
wow.
tickets, but check your weekend, guys. Check your weekends always.
Exactly.
But
Exactly.
other than that,
Yeah.
it was really successful. So it gave me some
Mm-hmm.
confidence to where I planned my own brunch last. This is not 2018 during Women's History Month. I said
Right.
I have some friends who are judges who I want them to have a platform to speak because I noticed that
Mm-hmm.
most times if a judge is invited, it's an older man, happens to be white male, and we weren't really
Right.
hearing from women under 40, particularly women of color under 40
Yeah.
who had made great strides with getting elected as a judge. So I said, you
Mm-hmm.
know what? I wanted
Absolutely.
just to bring them to my group of friends and encourage my group of friends who
Yeah.
might be thinking about, we're at the age and stage of running for office. And by just asking
Mm-hmm.
one particular homegirl who I went to school with, she invited two more of her friends. They invited a friend. Next thing I knew, I had five women on the bench who were willing to do
Wow.
lunch and learn. And I was like, dang. And
Yeah.
I will just shout myself out. Just let me just tell you,
Yes.
before I
Yes.
did my Women of the Bench event last spring, not a lot of people were focused on women judges. Not a lot of people were inviting women judges places. So
Mm.
I'd like to say I'm a trailblazer. You're welcome for opening the door
Yes.
for
Yes.
interest.
Let them know.
Yo, gotta let them know because all of a sudden you see women judges on
Yes.
everybody's
Yes.
program. Everyone, it's all good. It's all
Yes.
good.
That's so
I
true.
want them to get the
Mm-hmm.
exposure because nobody was really paying attention. Now all of a sudden, it's really the in thing to give them awards, to bring them on to
Yeah.
speak, and I love that's what I wanted because judges' hands are tied.
Mm-hmm.
They can't have their own events. They can't speak up. They have to be neutral. So in just trying to
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
genuinely help some women who I really believed needed a platform and create something that I thought also women would benefit from, it ended up being a
Right.
brunch of like 90 people. And I was like, oh, I had
Oh,
to go book a
wow.
restaurant like with a big room and do a cocktail hour and buy a backdrop. It
Yeah.
became an event. I literally was just
Yeah.
trying to
Yeah.
do
Yeah.
something cool and
Yeah.
relax.
And that definitely speaks to the power of innovation too,
Absolutely.
right? It's like thinking about what
Absolutely.
hasn't been done or how you could do something that has been done differently. Like that's also important because
Absolutely.
that's how you were able to generate all that interest from people,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
So thinking about how you can be innovative, thinking about how you could reach out to your network to just get people involved because you spoke to some of your friends and they were like, hey, like reach out to this person as well. A lot of times we try to be siloed and we think that we could do it all by
Nope.
ourselves, and especially as women of color, we think that we could wear the cape and we could do it all.
No.
But think about reach out to other people in your life and be innovative and try to do something different in the marketplace as
Yeah,
well.
for sure. So that allowed
Yeah.
me the confidence when I saw my brother was like, he ended up being my ticket. Let me tell you, I had to call him to help me put up the backdrop. Let's just keep it real because I had no idea. I didn't do a run through. I didn't know how to set up a backdrop. And I was like, yo, you got to come to Las Olas like right now. Help me get this up.
Come help us
And
out.
he did. And he ended up actually also being
Yeah.
my check-in person and all that. Because
Oh,
underestimated
wow.
how big this was going to be. I was planning for like 50 or
Mm-hmm.
60 people, but when it was all said and done, I was like closer to 100. So I thank God
Wow.
I had friends that I was like,
Yeah.
yo, can you come early? Can you do this? I totally
Yeah.
underestimated that event because I was
Yeah. We
taking it
need that. We need
casually
that.
that people would come, but I wasn't expecting the overflow. So that
Yeah.
thankfully the content of that event was awesome.
Mm-hmm.
And I saw the
Mm-hmm. I
difference
can
it made.
imagine.
I'm big on storytelling and women who have achieved things, exposing how life gets
Mm-hmm.
real, how they're not perfect, how they have to work on balancing
Mm-hmm.
things, how they have to work on their insecurities, how they have to get
Absolutely.
regroup sometimes. And that their
Mm-hmm.
path was not a straight path. It wasn't, it's a zigzag. And I think a lot of women
Mm-hmm.
draw power from that, draw confidence from that. Like,
Yeah.
whoa, this person didn't
For
have all their stuff
sure.
together ever after. Oh, I'm like that too.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, baby, you still in the race.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect.
Yeah.
So those type of moments I live for. So I wanted to
For
keep the
sure.
momentum going, and instead of chat and chew, because that's the one I had partnered with my friend girl on, I prayed and
Mm-hmm.
actually just laid still in my bed one night, and I was like, okay, I am Suzette Speaks. How do I brand
Mm-hmm.
something that makes sense for me? And the
Mm-hmm.
word speak
Mm-hmm.
was just floating in my head. And I was like, God, give me the acronym that you want me to use. And he did.
Yeah.
And the Speak
Mm-hmm.
conference, I will say that I went to a conference like 3 years ago, the Office Depot Women's Conference. And from that conference, I
Yes.
almost remember what every woman said. I remember the keynote like it was yesterday. It had such an impact on me that I knew at some point
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to bring that to women who looked like me because there was not a lot of women there who were women of
Right.
color. So I always knew I was like, yo, women of color need this type of conference. I didn't know when and
Right.
where, but when I started the Speak Women's meetups, I knew I was going to lead to a
Mm-hmm.
conference at that point. So I ended up doing
Mm-hmm.
monthly. It was actually twice a month during the summer, and then monthly meetups to the point where, and I would tell people, right, hey, y'all coming to this meetup for free, but I'm doing a conference in March. Just know that's what
Right.
is in my heart, and I'm working towards it. So that's when it became more clear to me that it was the direction that we're going to go in.
I remember a similar conference for me as well, that really changed the trajectory of everything I was doing to really put me in a space where I wanted to empower people. I wanted to empower myself, really,
Absolutely.
at first. And then that led to, well, how can I do this for others too? And that motivated me because it made me recognize that there are a lot of things within myself that I have to change in order for me to serve and
Absolutely.
for me to also be out in the marketplace as well. Because really being an entrepreneur, it's personal development. Like you get a chance to really look at some of the things that block you from really being successful. And when you're stuck in doing certain things like an event, for example, because I do talk to a lot of women who they want to do events or they reach out to people and say, hey, how do I do this, and they never get started. And so
Mm-mm,
it's like, how do you
mm-mm.
overcome that fear? How do you
Yeah,
overcome that
yeah,
barrier,
yeah,
from getting stuck? And just get started, just do it. You
yeah.
heard what Suzette said. It was, she got an opportunity to partner with someone, but eventually she decided that she was going to go out and do it on her own. So there's nothing wrong with just stepping out on faith, and it might not work the first time.
Exactly.
And it might not work because of there might be a conflict, like a large event that might be happening during that time. So also think about, look at the dates, look at Eventbrite. A lot of times when I'm thinking about planning events, I look at Eventbrite and see what's happening that weekend, or I look at Facebook events and see what's happening that weekend. And if I think it's too big, or if I think it's something that is directly related to what it is that I'm doing, then I decide to choose another week before or after, or whatever the case may be. So be strategic with the dates that you're utilizing, or that you're using for your events. So the other thing that I wanted to get from you then is just tell us a little bit more about what the Speak conference was, and how did that
Mm-hmm.
tie into overall your marketing strategy. So for some of us on here, we know that events are a
Mm-hmm.
great touch point from a marketing standpoint. So I just wanted to see how that event or any of the other events that you've dealt with, how does that tie into your overall marketing strategy?
What I think I
Mm-hmm.
saw was a need for a transformational experience for women who looked and sounded and was in the similarly situated life stage as me. And by that I
Mm-hmm.
mean in South Florida, I do not see, and I love my people, readily available high quality events. And that's not to knock
Mm-hmm.
anybody, and that's not to say don't keep trying and don't try to get better, sis. But I'm trying to say I
Exactly.
saw something missing, and I wanted to be the answer
Mm-hmm.
for what I saw. So I think sometimes we have to look
Mm-hmm.
out in the marketplace and say to ourselves, what do I really want? And is that need being addressed and served? and how can I do it in a
Right.
unique fashion? So for me,
Mm-hmm.
I wanted a high level. And when I say high level, I want to mean, what I meant by it is that I wanted to address topics in a different type of way. I go to a lot of
Mm-hmm.
conferences where I see people who I'm looking at the stage and I'm like, I know more than them sitting up in the stage. And that's not to knock who they're trying to address, but it wasn't to address me and I got fooled. And I think
Right.
for a lot of
Right.
people, they go to these events and all around South Florida and it's hurtful because I was like, Lord, people came to my event on faith. Because if they pay their money for half of these
Mm-hmm.
other events, I'm very selective for what I go to because half the people are not putting together things of quality. They're worried about money or they're ill-equipped and they need a little bit more refining and a little bit more mentorship before they go out
Mm-hmm.
into the big marketplace. So you get these beautiful
Right.
flyers.
Exactly.
Oh, they can make a flyer. The flyer is
Mm-hmm.
popping.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
But when you
Exactly.
show up and the registration table is not a proper, you already, I was like, Father,
Yeah.
listen, we already started off on
Yeah.
the wrong
You know what
foot.
you're gonna.
And there's no attention to
And so, you
detail.
talk about
Hmm.
for you. You said that larger scale event. In South Florida, a lot of people are hesitant about like having a high ticket event, right? Because they feel that people aren't going to show up, they're not going to come out. So talk to us about your pricing strategy as well for what you did with the
Well,
conference.
yeah, I had done events within more of like well, not really like a $30 to $35 range before this event. My judges brunch had gone
Mm-hmm.
up to 55, and I was scared that people wasn't gonna buy at 55. And
Right.
again, you gotta
Exactly.
be really, you gotta look at A, what kind of value are you offering, and B, know your
Mm-hmm.
audience. So I know I was really
Mm-hmm.
targeting professional women that should be able to, with at least a 3 month advanced lag time, be able to afford
Right.
$50. Like that should
Mm-hmm.
be where they are. If you know your audience and if you've been in
Mm-hmm.
touch and building trust with your audience and connecting with your audience over a period of time. Now, I think
Mm-hmm.
for me, the strategy was I felt like I had been to way less delivering events for over $100,
Mm-hmm.
but I think your
Mm-hmm.
pricing strategy is going to be what are you going to exceed? I would not put my price higher than the expectation of what I would exceed. That means if I am
Mm-hmm.
charging $99 for a conference, baby, I'm gonna give you $200 worth of conference. That if you wanted to go see
Yes.
TD
Yes.
Jakes, you getting that in South Florida for half the price. So I knew my
Exactly.
my
Mm-hmm.
goal was to exceed, and I deliberated. I really went back and forth. I was like, Lord, do you
Right.
want me to charge 75? I don't want to charge 75, but I wasn't gonna make no money at 75. That's how much the pool costs, and it's some of the other
Yeah.
stuff. So I
Yeah.
was going back and forth because my goal was not strictly, and not that it's wrong to make money, because I find people hate on women trying to make money. We'll give our money to men
Mm-hmm.
with our eyes closed. But when you put a price on
Mm-hmm.
yourself and a value on what you're offering, people get nervous.
Exactly.
But I said to
Mm-hmm.
myself, Father, I'm not trying to break nobody's bank. I want as many women as can participate as possible without losing the value
Mm-hmm.
of what I was offering, to be a part of what I was doing.
Exactly.
But I knew on purpose that may exclude
Mm-hmm.
some people. But guess what? That's okay. You give people something to reach to. So I was
Yeah.
okay. There were
Yeah.
people like, well, it's kind of, I want to say, baby, save your coins. See you next year. This ain't for you.
Get it together.
This ain't for you.
Because you know what? If
And
it
it's,
was a nice handbag that they wanted, they probably would buy it at that price
if
and
you
go
stop
follow it.
drinking
You
up
know
the
what I mean?
Starbucks and
Yeah.
eating the fast food and wanted to pour into your spirit and really get some quality, because I
Yes.
can't be mad at you because other stuff that you've been going to around the town hasn't really been quality.
Right.
But if you really wanted to,
Right.
I don't know why we don't invest in ourselves. Let me tell you, women who work
Mm-hmm.
at a certain level, I'm talking about good six figures and above, conferences are a part of their daily self care, monthly self care,
Absolutely.
yearly self care. My homegirls who are actually
Mm-hmm.
making it, who I'm trying to be like, they regularly
Mm-hmm.
go to conferences. We as
Yeah.
adults do not get the opportunity to get the pat on the back that we need. After we turn 18, nobody patting
Yeah.
you. People are more breaking
It's
down
true.
your spirit. They use
Yeah.
conferences as a reminder of what
Mm-hmm.
is possible for you and what other people have done that are similarly situated as you. They're no more special than you. But it's a reminder of
Mm-hmm.
how I can be effective, what I need to do to be effective, and then I'm doing pretty darn okay.
Right.
So I think
Right. Right.
if
Exactly.
people understood what they were investing in, they would be at a conference, a good one, well, almost probably a
Mm-hmm.
couple times a year at the very least. I go to at least 4 conferences a year.
Mm-hmm.
But I knew for the demographic that I'm serving, which happens to be a mix, but a majority of women of color,
Mm-hmm.
they're not used to it.
Mm-hmm.
They don't even know they need it. They don't know
Exactly.
what they're missing because they've spent high dollar on certain things that they really didn't get no quality out of.
Yeah.
it was good numbers,
Yeah.
but the quality
Exactly.
wasn't there. And then they've gone to other
Exactly.
lesser or smaller venue things, and they also too
Mm-hmm.
were disappointed. So I knew there was a marketplace for what I wanted to offer because I haven't seen what I'm trying to do around this area in the South Florida region. I just haven't seen
Yeah.
it. So I tend
Yeah.
to dig in introspectively. I want to fix you inside out. I want to get your life together mentally, mindset wise, heart wise,
Mm-hmm.
spirit wise, soul wise, so you could go out and serve who you're designed to be on earth to serve. That's my purpose, getting women's lives together from inside out. Everybody's not doing that.
Yeah.
Everybody's collecting paycheck. So you got to be really
Yeah.
clear about your intent. I want to do that. I don't care if I'm not getting paid for it. If I can sit at a bus stop and have somebody's life turn around with a good word, I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna spend that extra 5 minutes and miss a bus and come in and help you get poured into. I like that. I live for that. So if you
Yes.
know
Yes.
what it is that your purpose to do through your event, the demographic, the target market that we love to talk about that you're made to serve,
Mm-hmm.
you tailor your
Mm-hmm.
stuff, and guess what? They will pay. They will pay.
Yes.
Offer
If you build it,
value.
they will come. Okay.
Offer
Yes.
value.
Yes.
And maybe you have to do like me, offer some stuff for free first so they can test the waters. Every time they came to a
Mm-hmm.
meetup, their mind was blown. They like, Sue, you gotta
Mm-hmm.
charge for this, boo. How you just giving this away for free? I was like, I just it was almost selfish. It was therapeutic to me. I was like,
Right. Exactly.
y'all
Because
getting
they
all this
needed
out of
it,
it, but I'm getting
but
some
they
out of
saw
it too.
value in it.
So
Yeah.
you
I think that that's great.
you got to build up. You cannot come out of nowhere and ask for a lot of money. You definitely have to show
Mm-hmm.
and prove to the marketplace that you know what you're
Mm-hmm.
doing in terms of the style of event you're
Mm-hmm.
putting on. Show them what you're doing.
Mm-hmm.
Offer it first at maybe a very reachable price. But after you're sure
Mm-hmm.
that you understand your market and your market is following you, your target, your tribe, whatever you want to call it, then you can reach
Mm-hmm.
higher and see and test the water again. Is it always going to be a full house? You might not get 100, you might get 50, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I my goal was 300 women, and I had more than half it, but it was okay.
Yeah.
So you got to
Yeah.
kind of be testing and building and not just overnighting yourself into maybe a disappointment. So you got to really be careful that dang, I'd be proud if I went to my own event and I would come away thinking
Exactly.
I got way more than that $100. And if they're not doing
Yeah.
that, or if
Exactly.
you're not doing that, go back to the drawing.
And like Suzette was really dropping some gems because honestly, I've seen a lot of people who they do events, and you could tell it's just for the money, right? And so I thought it was so important that you said you have to be intentional. Like, what type of environment are you really trying to create? What type of event is it that you're doing? Be intentional about what it is that you're offering people, so that they can be left with an experience, right? Like,
Absolutely.
and one of the biggest things is how can you make your event connect with people on a physical level, spiritual level, and emotional level as well. And that's how you can be able to differentiate yourself from other events. What are some key differentiators that you use to market your event? Because I felt like I saw it everywhere on social media. I know that for sure you had already built that
Yeah.
following through the networking events and the workshops that you were doing. Definitely for sure, I'm on your email list, so I saw it in the email. So I know that you had email marketing, you had an aggressive social media marketing tactic,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
had the tribe that you already built through the smaller events. So what are some other key differentiators that you used in order for you to market your event to make it that successful to the point where you were able to get over 160 women
Yeah.
in
Yeah.
where the price point wasn't like a lot of
Mm-hmm.
events now. It was
It went cheap.
over
We started
$100.
$100, but I'm gonna give you
Right.
$100 worth though.
Exactly.
If I'm gonna ask you to pay that, you got to
Yeah.
bring the quality. So I had tried
Mm-hmm.
to start building a database before I did this event. That
Yeah.
means you have to be able to have some kind of email contact. Now, email is not the most effective
Mm-hmm.
way now because people are opening up their emails less and less. They're tired of spam. They're
It's
tired of
true. It's
other
true.
ways. Sometimes it gets, I delete a lot of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So I get it. Sometimes it's not
Mm-hmm.
the most effective way. But for every now and then they do open them. So I would
Mm-hmm.
say starting with home base and kind of creating a list for myself of, almost 3,000 people now
Mm-hmm.
are on my list. So
Wow.
I don't jump out there and just say, I'm going to do this, I'm going to do that. I hired even a virtual assistant
Mm-hmm.
to help me organize it and get it, to where I can say women who
You got to
network,
do what you got to do. Yes.
women in
Mm-hmm.
law, men who network, men in law. That's another thing you have to segment. and send people what they need
Mm-hmm.
and what most applies to them.
Mm-hmm.
So they hopefully will open it.
Mm-hmm.
But beyond that,
Yeah.
one of the things that I did that was really unintentional was I did an all call for speakers because I wanted the best to be
Mm-hmm.
speakers. And again, when you're doing events, don't just get your sister friend and your sister girl. Get people who
Yeah.
you look up to or have
Yeah.
an aspirational sense about them, and that can be
Mm-hmm.
different, mean different things to different people. But for me, I wanted to be sure if I didn't feel like I could learn something from the person, I didn't want them on my stage. Because in my head, I have gone to several things where I'm looking at people and I'm like, dang, I know more than if I feel that way, I know others are gonna feel that way. So I wanted to catch women who, and I asked around a lot, that were a little bit
Mm-hmm.
more down the road than I was, had been in business longer than I
Mm-hmm.
was, had more expertise than I had, that had
Mm-hmm.
gone through some tougher times than I had. Like you have to make sure
Mm-hmm.
your audience is getting people who have some depth, not just, oh my gosh, she has
Right.
10,000 followers. Who cares? I think a lot of times
Mm-hmm.
we just throw people on the stage that we like or admire or have a lot of followers, and it backfires. Okay,
It's true.
totally
It's true.
backfired. So when I did my all call
Mm-hmm.
for speakers, I had over 230, I think it was 233, 34 people apply. And I'm talking about people
Right.
got that flyer because they were sending it to their friends and their circles from
It's
South Florida,
amazing.
Australia. I had a lady from Australia apply to be a speaker, and I was like, yo, people know about this event. And what I realized from that,
You went
I
international.
was like,
I
we
love
don't have a
it.
budget, but okay, thanks for
Yes.
applying. Maybe next year. But my goal is
Uh-huh.
to be able to hopefully get speakers from across the country and beyond. But bottom line is that
Yeah.
alone, without even knowing it, was in itself a marketing campaign. Because no matter what,
Mm-hmm.
6 months ahead, a whole bunch of people knew this conference was coming. So I didn't
Right.
even think of
Right.
it that way, nor did I intentionally plan it that way. But it
Mm-hmm.
ended up actually creating more buzz for me before I even started with the true announcement of what it was and how people were
Right.
going to, who was going to be a part of the event. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I felt very strongly that you got to find people that are actually going to reach and teach. I know that
Mm-hmm.
in marketing, you got to be open to, different avenues of reaching your audience. Like you said, email has to be
Yes.
one. I was thinking to myself,
Yes.
I cannot be bashful. I send everything to everybody in my contact list, everybody on my phone, everybody in my WhatsApp. Then you have to think
Mm-hmm.
about your social media. And you always
Mm-hmm.
have to make sure your campaign is targeting and appealing to your
Mm-hmm.
demographic and who you're trying to reach. That being said, when you think about things like color choice, when you think about things like
Mm-hmm.
the types of messages, how you're embedding them. I did a lot of Facebook Lives, and my Facebook Lives indirectly ended up being marketing pieces because I understand
Right.
in
Mm-hmm.
my head, I want to know, I want to share what I want to know. So if somebody wants,
Mm-hmm.
if I'm thinking about my target market, I'm like, they want to know about how to do Facebook ads well. Let me find somebody to interview about that. Let me find somebody
Exactly.
who's in
Mm-hmm.
politics. Let me find somebody who's also gone through, infertility, the different things that I know within the age and stage of where I am in life. There's a broad range of women
Mm-hmm.
that want to know those type of things. I use the Facebook Live because it has a greater reach. I wasn't even using
Yeah.
Instagram that much at the time, and I didn't really.
Yeah.
I paid for ads, I did, but I did it organically. By choosing good
Mm-hmm.
speakers who are willing to share as well. Don't put
Right.
nobody on your program that
Mm-hmm.
they don't think they're a part of the marketing team.
Exactly. Exactly.
And
Like help make the event successful. That's what happens with a
exactly.
lot of speakers.
So if
They
you
know
are a
they're going to be
speaker
in a
out
platform, but
there,
they don't have to promote.
don't be
Mm-hmm.
stingy. Help co-promote. Thank you.
Exactly. Exactly.
And knowing your target market in terms of what value can you give them prior. I did an interview with one of my speakers about podcasting. I did another interview with one of my
Mm-hmm.
speakers about purpose and finding purpose. All the things I knew I was going to talk about, I tried to tease it before, and I just
Mm-hmm.
try to be very
Mm-hmm.
strategic with how I distribute it and try to distribute it and distribute it and distribute it. Marketing makes or breaks you. So marketing,
Yes.
like you
Yes.
can't be
For sure.
ashamed to ask. I was like, this is expensive. It's coming out of my pocket if these people don't come. So trust me, all shame went out the door, and I was trying to send it to everybody possible.
So think about how you can reach out to your network as well. Continue doing the Facebook, your social media marketing. Continue to do your email marketing, because it's about 7 different touch points in marketing for someone to actually take action and buy a product or a service from you. And of course, events are an essential part of that marketing structure and
Absolutely.
platform. That we're talking about as well. Suzanne, you said I am one of 11 speakers on a summit, and all 11 have agreed committed to co-promoting It's Like a Flood. Yeah, no,
Shout out
absolutely.
to you
And
guys. You guys get it. Shout
yeah,
out to you.
yeah, no, for sure. Because, that's a sort of expectation. Like, would you want to show up as a speaker and then there's an empty room? So it's like, why not help promote and support that event that you're going to be speaking at? And there's an opportunity for speakers, of course, to be able to sell their products and services as well. So
Absolutely.
it's a win-win. For me, I think that if I pay for a speaker to be there, then I at least have to dictate how many times you're going to share and you're actually going to adhere to that. So that's one of the
Yeah,
things.
don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to negotiate those
Like,
things.
look, you need to share this post, at least 5 times because you're getting paid for it. So, part of it is not just you showing up at the event and speaking your content or sharing your content, but another part is you have to also help me market this event because at the end of the day,
Absolutely.
I don't bring
And don't be afraid to ask.
money. Yeah,
Absolutely.
so also definitely you think about like setting guidelines for speakers. If you are going to be paying them, listen, these are the writers. You have to do some of these things before you actually come into the event. And then, for some speakers who might want to get money, there's an opportunity where you can ask them, you can tell them they could have their table at the event, or they could be able to sell their products and services. So there's a way for you to barter, so you don't necessarily have to like spend your hard cash that you don't have yet because you're still
right.
waiting for the event attendees to come in, but you can barter and see if they will work with you. A lot of speakers will be open to doing that as well because there's an opportunity for them to make money.
Absolutely. I did that for several. Didn't mean to interrupt. I did that for several people that they spoke and they got a table because they have books and they have other things. And instead of money I didn't have,
right, exactly.
Because people look at it and they were like, "Woo, that event." And I was like, "Oh yeah, it costs a pretty penny." But everybody thinks you're balling, and I'm like, no, I'm waiting to cut the check.
Okay, she got money, like that.
I'm like, bruh, it wasn't easy.
Yeah, it's a faith walk. Definitely putting on an event. It's a faith walk.
Absolutely, absolutely. So yeah, you bring up a good point with barter, barter for almost everything. Barter if you can. So even if it's the table decorations, and I'm gonna shout you out, even if it's like a raffle prize. Even if it's whatever, you can make them a flyer and they can help you do PR, right? So there's a lot of other people, not just your speakers, that you can involve in spreading the message. So don't neglect the people who are like, giving you donated items, your film people, all those people can help you spread the word if you make them a quote unquote sponsor.
Yeah, and that for me is cooperative economics, people. Okay.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Suzanne, thank you so much for joining me today. This is my very first episode of Event Gems, where I'm bringing you gem droppers who are going to help you ideate, execute, and market your events so that your business could shine. But I hope that you heard everything that Suzanne had to say. She was dropping some gems. It really, one of the key points for me was, stay innovative. Think about people who you admire, and those are some of the people that you're going to look to bring into your event as a speaker. Really cultivate your tribe before you think about doing a larger scale event. So you could do the networking events and keep your costs low, build up your tribe, and then do something bigger where you can command higher dollars and also get higher quality speakers there as well. I want to thank you so much, Suzette, for being on.
But thank you for the opportunity, and I'm so excited to have been here, and I hope it was helpful, and you could also reach out if you have any questions.
Absolutely. It was fantastic. Thank you again, Suzette. Bye, everyone.
A pleasure. Bye, everybody.